Yo, what's up, everybody? So I recorded a podcast interview with Kent Wayne, author of Echo Volumes 1 through 4, also known as Dirty Sci-Fi Buddha. This guy is a fantastic writer. He's got a blog that I follow daily, but he's also been writing this incredible sci-fi tale called Echo. And so we did a podcast interview. It went for 2 hours. Me and him talked about a whole ton of stuff. It was one of the most interesting conversations I've ever had, honest to God. And so I put part 1 up here. It's audio only. There, I also put up the audio on my podcast on This Won't Work podcast, available on Anchor and all major platforms. This Won't Work, that's what it's called. But yeah, so this is the first part 1 of our 2 hour long interview with Kent Wayne, author of Echo Volumes 1 through 4. I really hope you enjoy it. Check it out. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, please. And also, like I said, check out the podcast. This Won't Work podcast, part of Uniweb Productions. Let's get to the interview.
Hello.
Kent Wayne.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man.
I just want to make sure I'm not using the wrong name here. I don't want to. Do you use your real name, or what should I call you by?
Yeah, I go by Matt Whiteside. It's
okay,
fine.
cool.
Everyone knows me.
What's going on?
I like to believe everybody knows me. Hey, man, I'm really sorry. That was all on me.
No, that was all on me. I should have. I
thought you could do it from the computer, but
I should have been more aggressive about communicating and figuring out and making sure everything was good to go beforehand. But yeah, sorry about all that. Yeah. So I don't know how this is your podcast. I don't know how things go, so I will defer to you.
Great. Yeah. So usually I've been doing video interviews, and I mean it's honestly been like 2.5 weeks doing these interviews. So this is just gonna be. I'm gonna put this on the podcast, and I might actually upload it to YouTube too. Obviously, no video, but yeah, man, we'll just have a conversation. I'll talk to you about your book and your books and kind of what you're up to. I've read a little bit through your bio, and obviously I've been reading your blog and everything like that. So
awesome, cool.
Yeah, man. You out in California?
San Francisco. Yep.
San Francisco. Wow,
yep.
The Bay Area. Very cool.
What about yourself?
So I'm in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where they have The Walking Dead, right?
That is, yeah. They're doing a lot of movies out here now.
Nice.
They're doing Zombieland, the second Zombieland movie. Woody Harrelson was in town,
sweet.
Yeah, he was at Piedmont Park playing soccer with the locals.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that guy.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, apparently.
Cool.
I hope when I get famous like that, I'll still be nice.
Yeah, I don't think that's one reason I don't want to use my real name, because I'm not really a nice guy at heart, so I don't want the power to go to my head.
Is Kent Wayne, right? Is that cooler?
Yeah, Kent Wayne. Yeah, that's not my real name, but yes,
that's your pen name.
Pen name, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Man. Are we? Is this all? Just to clarify, are we doing the podcast right now? Is this all part of
This is being recorded, but I should be able to edit it.
No, it's all right. I usually don't edit anything unless like my guests tell me to. I don't know what your style is. I don't know if you make a highly produced podcast or if it's just like a Joe Rogan style podcast or what.
No, you haven't watched any of my YouTube videos apparently.
No, well, I'll just follow your lead, man.
Bro, I wanted to call the YouTube channel First Take because like I only do like one take of everything. But yeah, so thanks for coming on the This Won't Work podcast, affiliate of Uniweb Interview Show. I'm joined today by Kent Wayne, author of Echo, books 1 through 4, out now on Amazon, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
I've been following you since I started blogging, I guess about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And I've been following you ever since, man. And I have to say, your style is extremely unique.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'll take that as a compliment.
It's art. It's art, right?
Okay, all right. Well,
And I think and I enjoy it.
okay,
Um,
awesome. Thanks, man.
yeah, absolutely. So it's why don't we first off? So Echo, there's 4 books in the series, right?
Yeah, correct.
I've read 40% of Echo one. I was trying to continue reading, but I started this interview thing, and I've pretty much gotten 20% through like 70 books by now. It's
Okay.
like
Well, yeah. If you've read 40, let me apologize because that was I just this is always something I say when people read Echo One. It's my first attempt at fiction, so I just apologize for all the newbie mistakes. I hope you didn't get the original version where I didn't know about the adverb rule. You know, apparently adverbs really watered down the rhythm. I didn't figure that out till later. But yeah, apologize. It ends with a cliffhanger. I'm just going to go out. You know, I like to try to be as transparent as possible. It ends with a cliffhanger. It has all my newbie mistakes. So I just apologize if I'm falling short anywhere along the way so far.
no, man. And that's the thing. I remember you saying that to me because I wrote you on your blog and your comments.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm reading it, I mean, it's fantastic. Like it shocks me. Um, One thing I like about reading new material and from different authors is like finding a voice that is unique and something you haven't heard before. And hearing your voice and your style is something I've never heard before.
Hey, thanks,
And
man. I'm not really good at taking compliments, but I might start getting a little nervous here. But yeah, thanks, man.
no, it's great because you really, and the first thing I thought was, holy crap, this guy really pushes the envelope in terms of volatility in imagery. Um, so if you wouldn't care, could you just kind of give us an idea of what Echo is about?
It was basically. Let me let's see. We gotta kind of be reductive because we can't read all the books or whatever. Can't go into chapters. So I'll be reductive and just say, Echo is about human nature. You know, there's a reason I named it Echo because it literally is kind of like an echo. I add some cool set pieces, or I think they're cool, but I had some sci-fi set pieces and whatever. I add some. I put in the classic hero's journey, but basically, the name is supposed to echo. It means it literally is like an echo of all the problems we have back here, right? And the solutions. I'm not going to spoil them, but as you progress to the story, despite like the psychic stuff and the magic stuff I start throwing in, the solutions are also an echo of what we have here. And I tried to make it a bit more timely in that right now I feel like the world, due to the internet and I don't know, I'm not a politics guy, but
Right.
basically people are at each other's throat. People are really digging down and getting bogged down by tribalism. You know, my way or the highway. Because of what I went through, you have no say in the argument, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Echo is kind of I'm going to keep it vague so as not to give spoilers, but Echo is kind of like it's a magnification of all those problems. It has devolved into a world where there's like a authoritarian, oppressive government, and then there's a bunch of rebels. I mean, how much more divisive can you get? And it's like two basically. Like the American. I don't think the American political party has devolved to this point yet, but it's people have complained about how it's a two-party system, right? Well, in the world of Echo, it's not just one country that suffers from that. It's like the entire world. It is the regime versus the dissidents, and they're killing each other. It's gotten to they're killing and torturing each other. So it's gotten to the far extreme of tribalism. And so, yeah, as the story progresses, I try to highlight why that's bad, and then what kind of mentality and approaches are needed to counteract that, I guess. And that's reflected within the character, the main character, and to some degree throughout in the rest of the characters. I mainly use them as kind of a counterpoint or to highlight the problems. It's kind of like a reflection, a way to reflect how the problems iterate themselves. And then because this is one of my beliefs, and I'm not Christian, but I do believe in the fundamental premise behind the Christian theory of you fix yourself first, and then you have a chance of redeeming society. So that's kind of like whether or not Jesus was real or whatever, or however you want to take exactly what he said. To me, that's the fundamental strength behind the parable of Jesus, where it's like you have one guy, he really got his stuff straight, and then in doing so, he was able to redeem society. And I believe that's kind of like how people how there's any hope at all. People have to fix themselves first. They have to put the focus on fixing themselves, and then the rest kind of falls in line. So that kind of goes through Echo.
Yeah. And you kind of see it in the very first scene. You talk about like the split between society and the regime and stuff like that. But like in the very first scene, it's so divisive. Like they're running through. So this is based on they're on another planet,
right,
similar to Earth, but it's like far future
mm-hmm.
on another planet, and it opens with like military-esque guys running through the wilderness training.
Right.
Yeah, and the first scene is like it got me because I was like, oh my god, like I've never read anything like this in a first chapter.
That I'm sorry, were you going to say something else? I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but
go ahead. I want to know about the scene too. I was going to ask about the scene.
Yeah, I was about to expound on the scene. The scene specifically, like that's a side of the military that people don't really see, and I hate saying like I have friends in elite communities, but there's really no other way to say it, and it's one of the selection tools is peer reviews and peer pressure, and it can get kind of brutal. There can be fist fight, there's been a couple suicides or whatever, but regardless, you're using it's basically you want a refined pack of people who work well together in the end. That's kind of a military selection, and the more elite groups you have, like the more refined a product you want, right. So in Echo, I just took that to the extreme where it's like where it's like it's not just about internal fortitude and being able to do the job and stuff, but literally it's about like you have to be willing, like the thing that bonds all these people isn't just the pride of making it through some hard shit, but literally crippling their classmates. And then I had a blogger comment on this. I think I made the pass rate like 1 in 1,000 or something stupid, right? And it was meant to be stupid. Like you never, in reality, you wouldn't want to run a selection course where only 1 in 1,000 people pass, right? That's just retarded. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like I was raised in the 80s and 90s. I didn't mean to use any non-PC term right there, but that's stupid. Like, and the fact that they place an emphasis, like the curriculum places an emphasis on crippling the people who don't perform, like not just as a collateral damage, but as a deliberate ritual, as something that's actually a deliberate ritual. That's also really stupid, right? And so like that was meant to illustrate, like, yeah, this is kind of like a world gone awry, but that was the purpose of the first scene.
You did an awesome job.
Oh, thanks.
I was reading it. My girlfriend was like looking over reading it too. She was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I mean, I went a little artsy with that as well. It's like minor spoilers, but like they literally relieve themselves on the people who fail. They literally piss on the people who fail. They actually get a sense of relief. The main character, he's running up a mountain and he plateaus, and it's kind of like that's supposed to be symbolic of where he is at a personal level of his life. But yeah, and then it kind of foreshadows what's going to happen to him later on down the books. But
he was just kind of like he was unsure of what he was doing was right or not. And like I said, I'm about 40% in, so I've gotten through some fight scenes and that kind of thing. But like he seems like he's discontent with the whole idea of not like mentally he's like, I'm still doing the damn thing.
Right.
But for some reason, there's something holding him back. Like this might be messed up.
Right.
Is that what you were going for?
It wasn't. Yeah, and it wasn't even. It was obviously the whole military thing. But I wanted to kind of extrapolate that to, I don't just have military friends. I have civilian friends and veteran friends, and these guys. I feel like it seems to be like there's a trend in today's world where people are searching for a greater meaning, a greater purpose, and they're not really getting it, and I live in the first world. So, in these jobs where, they might get a decent living wage and objectively it's, they get all these luxuries, but there's not enough adversity. There's not enough meaning behind their job for them to really look forward to going to it, I wanted to make it exciting by putting it in the military and having these dangerous scenes and ideas come, physically threaten my character. But at the same time, wanted to make it relatable by, man, what the hell am I doing? Am I just going to do this for another 30 years? Like, what's the end game here? Like, what, all this effort, where's it? What is it? What purpose is it serving? Those are the questions he's asking. And I was hoping to make that relatable. I felt like that was relatable from what I was hearing from my friends.
Well, I think it's totally relatable, especially in today's age. And I actually wrote a blog this morning about human evolution.
Right.
And the whole idea was that, we've come to a point where we have everything we could ever want, ever need. And we're more miserable than we've ever been.
Yeah.
And it's because like we focus on everything outside of ourselves and all the stuff around us, and we have no sense of who we are anymore.
Right.
And like the most freeing thing for me has been actually becoming a writer, working on these things that are creative outlets for my spirit. And I believe that to be true. Like all the things that I'm doing now are like creative outlets for the inner spirit of who I truly am. And I'm starting to discover that more. But going to these day jobs to, pay the bills, to buy a nice house, to get a nice car, to have a nice wife and a marriage and kids, and like all these things that we were brought up to believe we were supposed to have, it's like it's not truly fulfilling because those are just, external things, finite things that pass us by that'll, be gone tomorrow kind of deal. And like what you're talking about, it's like the whole human evolution. We're all like the consciousness, and I don't know if this is where you were going with it, but I kind of hear it in what you were talking about. Like the consciousness of the human species has to be raised to a new level now, to where we're not just thinking on let me go get this new thing at the store. It's like, how can I somehow transcend this physical form to be something more, something that I know that I truly am?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's in books 3 and 4. I get into the metaphysical side of it, but
yes,
book 4 is like, it took a long time. It took 19 months because I was. It gets like I tried my best to make it like Inception style, Matrix style. But it's supposed to. If there is some underlying order to the universe, it's supposed to answer everything. If that premise is accepted, book 4 is supposed to account for all of it. So I'm not sure if I explained that well, but yeah.
I understand. That's concept to explain. So
right. But to your point, I mean, I don't even think I think that's true. I do suspect there's an underlying order to the universe, and that in order to live a fulfilling life, there has to be some kind of alignment with it, or the closer you're aligned with it, the better you'll feel, and the better you perform, and all that. But even if there isn't, let's say there's, I'm fine with the fact that if it isn't, I feel like there's a sound genetic argument where it's just like for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions or whatever, I don't know, for much longer than the span of recorded history, humans were evolved along the lines of being rewarded through a healthy amount of adversity. Like going out, gathering food, being physical, being outside, that kind of thing. I mean, just from a harder science level, I feel like there are arguments to be there are things that we are missing from our lives that I think would give us rewards on a primal level, And when you're writing, like, I'm going to loop it back to your writing. When you're well, first of all, when I sold my first book, it was like $2.99 or 99. Well, anyway, it was like I made like $1 or something like that, or maybe a few cents. And I tell people, like, those are the best damn cents I ever made in my life. Like that $1, that I felt more rewarded by that $1 than freaking. Do you swear on your podcast?
You can swear,
okay,
man. Yes.
All right. I didn't know like who you're marketing to. Yeah, more than any fucking $100 here, fucking $1,000 there. It's like, I mean, I've sold houses. I was a realtor for a little bit. I got some fat paychecks, but like making like that $1 off my first book, I was like, God damn, this feels amazing, And I think to your point, when you're writing, you're going on that hero's journey that all humanity's ancestors took, where they charted out the danger, they found the food sources, they found the reward sources, and you are doing that in a different fashion, more in this spiritual, mental fashion. But I feel like it's triggering the same reward circuits that were bred into us. You go out, you're charting these courses for the rest of the tribe, right? Like that bring insight, that bring more functionality, that bring more fulfillment, and in turn, that triggers those same things in you, and it's intensely rewarding. It may not pay a shitload, well, not right now anyway.
Yeah,
but I mean, writing to me is basically a second job at this point. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't get paid that much. I don't get paid in terms of a second job, but I'll do it because of those primal reward circuits, and I'm sure you can empathize with that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I've never thought about it in those terms, but it's true. So I'm in a program of recovery too, right?
Okay.
And alcoholism. And in the program, it talks about walking the thorough path, right? Like taking the path thoroughly. And I thought about that. How do I go about it thoroughly? Like, what does that even mean to go about something thoroughly? And to your point, like going out and charting a course, right? I thought, well, thorough means to be aware of my surroundings, be aware of the things along the way, mapping out the situations around me, the pitfalls, the rocks, the crags, all the things that are potentially harmful to me, doing it so thoroughly that when I am to help somebody else along the path, I have a kind of a track record or an outline of how to get there. And it's right with the so I do that every day, right? With the writing, it's I feel like we have these moments throughout our day, and I'm sure you can attest to this. And I see you write these musings too, on your blog. It's like these small epiphanies throughout the day that it's like, oh, that's like a code to life, or like not a secret so much, but like an insight to life. And writing those down throughout the day gives me is like just filling in another line to a map. Like, here's a part of a river or a tree, or like a rock on this side. It's like mapping out the path of life. And I feel like what you're saying, that genetic encoding, that it truly is rewarding. It's so fulfilling because you finally put your feet on the ground and take part in the life that you're living. Which like I said, I've never thought of it that way. That's really neat that you bring that up.
No, I've most of my stuff is I've just the thing is, I don't, to your point where it's like you're, when you're saying you're living it. And here's the thing, like those musings, well, first of all, just like a little bit of tactical advice. If a real easy way to maintain them, keep track of them, is just to text them to yourself. So that's what I do, instead of like busting up, it's just more convenient. But as far as those musings go, like when you're talking about charting the path, the musings I write down, a lot of them are the same. A lot of them, and pretty much all of them, I believe, I would be confident stating that all of them they've been said in some fashion or another by somebody else. But here's the thing. It's like, I'm sure you've been around people who they just quote other people, right? Mm-hmm. Or they just say stuff that they haven't thought up, and those are boring people, right? I mean, it's actually like a visceral sensation. You get bored by those people very quickly, right? But take somebody who is saying the same shit, but he's putting it in his own words. He's thought it through. He's thought about how to personalize it, how or she, how it applies to him or her, when they use that, how they use it, like when you have to change it, when you have to ditch it, when you have to like amplify it. Basically that person embodies that wisdom, even though it's like age old, even though everybody says it, everybody said it before. If you can personalize it and apply it, then you've embodied it. That's a completely different thing. And that person is a league beyond that. That person is a whole different world from somebody who's just spouting quotes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can feel that person's worth listening to because they've fully integrated that knowledge. It's not just something that they can spew. It's something that they can act out. Right. So that's kind of like, exactly. So that's kind of like, it's not just the musings, but like writing in general. It's like all my stuff, all my shit. It's pretty much, laser guns, dystopian, whatever. All that stuff's been done before. Right. It's just, I'm trying to filter it through my own context, my own filter. And what I believe, once you do that, that's when it starts to gain it's when it starts to gain power, So, like I have a lot of friends who are spiritualists in like the Eastern tradition, and I'd be like, they just come up with these stock answers, and I'd be like, what does that mean to you, man? Like, how did you apply that yesterday, today, last week? You know, it's a completely different thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and so with my writing, you bring that up. It's like the stories I've written so far are all pretty much about being like dying and being reborn. I mean, they're basically like the story of Jesus almost,
Right.
like we talked about earlier, but it's in a way that relates to me because I've gone through so many processes of like literally dying to myself and having to be reborn as a whole new person because of, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and the things that I've gone through, to where it's not, I mean, it's not that story, right? It's different, but it's like how I've seen it. And I mean, with my first two books, it's literally one's about a zombie who, or he was killed and becomes a zombie, and he has to find worth as a zombie, as a dead person now. In the second one, the guy literally is dead and has to realize that his physical form has been restricting him, and that his real form is the ethereal form that he's unbounded and limitless.
Right.
It's all this like, it's dying and being reborn to a new process of life, a new way of life, and moving up, kind of that, like we were talking about, evolution of human transcendence. But it is the experiential way of doing it. It's not just, hey, here's some words that people think are inspiring, and let me put them together.
Absolutely, that's awesome, man. I've never been addicted to anything. What was it, may I ask, that gave you problems? Alcohol. Okay.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I've been addicted my entire life to whatever. Like when I was a little kid, it was food and television, and addiction just it runs in my family.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it wasn't fun. It's
no,
like,
yeah.
It's been the most rewarding thing in my life, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be at a peaceful, serene place that I am now, through working a program and like coming to understand that it's like about fixing me, like taking responsibility for my life, realizing that I'm not a victim of anything. It's like, this is my shit to deal with. Like, it's up to me. If I want to have a good life and have fun and be happy, like, it's up to me to produce these things. I have everything I need inside me, inside each moment and every day, to have a good life. Now I can let the world distract me and come at me and knock me off course, but it's up to me to redirect, get back on course, and do the right things. And I say this all the time. It's like, people all want a good life, but aren't willing to do the things required of a good life. And they think that being successful is like this thing that's going to make them happy. Success is not something that's going to show up in your life and make you happy. Success is a weight that you have to be strong enough to bear. And I feel like I'm trying to get to that point in my life.
I totally agree. I mean, like I actually see success as okay. So I'm not sure if you know who Joseph Campbell is.
No.
Well, on Netflix, there's a 6-part series called The Power of Myth, and he kind of goes through how psychologically these parables and myth, the hero's journey, has kind of like threaded itself into the human psyche, and just kind of and he weaves all these disparate tribal myths and legends and stuff, and he's like, and it shows how these same themes come up over and over again. If you're a writer or anybody who's interested in human nature, it's really worth watching. But one of Joseph Campbell, yeah, Power of Myth on Netflix. It might be online. It's from the 90s, early 90s or 80s. But anyways, he referenced a myth that talked exactly what referenced exactly what you're talking about, and I'll tell you how I practicalized it. But I'll go over the myth first. Basically, actually, I'm not going to go over the exact circumstances because I don't want to butcher it. But basically, this person emerges from a mythical lake. Like, and any of you guys can check me on these details. I'm probably getting a bunch of them wrong. I think it's a princess who emerges from a mythical lake, and I can't remember whether it's basically symbolic of her going into a higher realm, and I can't remember if it turns out well for her or bad for her. But basically, Joseph Campbell says, once you get pulled into a higher realm, then what the story is saying is, if you're ready for it, if you've prepared for it, then you will experience bliss. It'll be a great ride, But if you haven't disciplined yourself and learned how to think strategically and all that stuff, if you haven't prepared yourself to handle that, next level, next caliber of energy, then it's going to be hell. You're done for. You're just overwhelmed, right? And I tell people like, it'd be cool if I got rich writing, or I play the lottery twice a week. It'd be cool if I hit the lot. But if any of those outcomes happen, I view them as like another job. It's just I've been interviewed and accepted for another job, and now It's like my job isn't party guy. It isn't like to snort coke off hookers' asses and then fly all over the world and get into all kinds of, that's not my job. My job is to manage this success and then be of use to other people. So to your point, it's like, yeah, you got to be ready to handle that shit,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
I think, and I talk about this a lot with the people I interview and just friends. It's like, why would I expect to have like millions of dollars in the bank when the money I have right now, I'm not intentional with enough to make it work for me? Like, once I can get to a place with the money that I have now, like the small amount of things and blessings that I have now and gifts, like if I can get intentional with those and make those important and work for me, then your level starts to rise on its own, just by doing those little things. It's like if I just expect $1 million to make my life better, but then I'm kind of missing the point, because it's never been about the stuff outside of me, right? It's always been about the stuff inside of me. And it's like I have to get that out of my head that $1 million is going to make my life better. No. My life can be as wonderful as I make it at this moment. $1 million will amplify that. It's an energetic force. It's something that'll amplify whatever I'm doing right now. And I feel like a lot of us, we get so enamored with the peak of the mountain that we forget that there's this entire terrain around us that we get to walk on and explore, that was created by God, the universe, whatever. But like, we're all able to walk on this mountain and explore all this amazing beauty that's around us, but we're all so focused on the peak, like getting up there. We forget that once we're up there, man, it's just all downhill. It's like,
yeah, man,
take your time, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the stuff around you.
Absolutely, man. And I think not only that, it's like, say you do climb a peak, say you do get $1 million. To me, part of the job is like finding another peak immediately, like get another hobby, because I mean, everybody, it's just like it's a fucking cliche at this point, like I don't think people have seen it in the military unless they've been in there, but like, there's some tier one, there's some really top military guys that go crazy, because they don't have any, they're at the top of their game. They haven't given themselves anything else to do. And, the class, everybody's seen it in celebrities, right? Like they're surrounded by yes men. They get whatever they want. They go on set. They have like their own super decked out trailer. Everybody caters to them. They don't get checked at all. And because they're not ready to handle that shit, they go crazy, So it's like, to me, it's like, and at the same time, there's a dichotomy, you can't find you can't go up like you got to be humble. You can't go up a peak that obviously is going to crush you. But once you climb a peak, it's like, okay, take a look around, assess, where's the next destination? Where am I going? But all that stuff, in case your listeners are like, what the fuck does this have to do with writing? To me, all that stuff is so fundamental to human nature. Once you put that in your books, it's gonna help your books resonate. Yeah. But
and I think that with writing too, it's like you get this point of a fear of, and with your writing, like some of the stuff you write about, like I'd be terrified to push myself to that point of like, imagery. And I think it's wonderful because it's something I'm terrified of doing, because what if people look at me a certain way and think of me now? And I think with anything in life, if we're afraid to go, if we're like succeeding constantly at the thing we're trying, that we're not trying hard enough. Like we need to be reaching a little bit further outside of ourselves to where there's that level of failure, because failure is just another lesson to learn, right? And I feel like with that kind of writing, like if you push yourself to the point where you feel uncomfortable, that's a good spot to be in.
Well,
you should.
I'm cheating a little bit because you use your real name when you write, huh?
So,
yeah, I'm cheating a little bit. Like I can be a little freer with that, but I understand what you're saying. Like if you have everything, if you do something and you know exactly what's going to happen 100% of the time, then that is not. There's no point to living. You're basically a robot, right? And that. But at the same time, on the other side, if you do something and 100% of the time you don't know what's going to happen, then you're probably going to be overwhelmed and traumatized, and then you won't be able to do anything. Yeah. So it's like you have to know when you do an action, you have to know kind of like, okay, you have to have like a firm base of like, okay, I have enough discipline or whatever, I have enough savvy to know that most of the time I'll be safe, that I can grow. But I also want to push into the point where I kind of don't know what's going to happen sometimes, so that I can learn and then I can keep expanding my capability and be like, okay, now that I'm in this realm of chaos a little bit, I can train myself, to handle that. And then it becomes a realm of order. And then you push it a little further into the realm of chaos. You see what I'm saying? And then like that, if you do that more than other people, then you go leaps and bounds ahead of them, then you're in a position to help them. Be like, hey, I charted this course for you guys, let me help you with your chaos. I've been there before. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the yin and the yang of life. It's like finding the balance in everything. There's got to be some order or some disorder and order
right
to balance it out, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
with that too, like, is that how you write? I mean, are you somewhere in the middle between like free flow writing and outlining, or?
Yeah, I mean, at first, when I started, I was trying to be a lot more ordered, because I was like, I don't know what the fuck the deal is with this writing stuff, so I'm just gonna try to write a detailed outline. I had all these notes and stuff, and then I realized, like, hey, I don't need these as much. I kind of know what's gonna happen, and then like I'm sure you've been in the zone, right? The flow state. It's like half my stuff I really don't anticipate. What I do is, like, I've heard a lot of other people do this. Stephen King, the guys who wrote Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, not the shitty movie.
Yeah.
But they have like this scene that they have like a really vivid scene in their mind. It's not connected to anything, no story. And then they start back engineering it. They're like, how do I get to that scene? Like, what motivates this guy to arrive at that scene? What does he do from there? So that's kind of like how I write. Like when I started writing Echo 1, I actually had the climax for Echo. Well, there's like 2 climaxes in Echo 3, but I had like the first climax for Echo 3 in my head, and I was like, how does a man get up to that point, right? Like, how does So 3 book. I didn't even get to write that scene until 2 or 3 years after I started writing Echo 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I outlined stuff like that. Echo 2 was actually, it's a giant battle scene. It all occurs in one day, but it was actually supposed to be like the whole series was actually only supposed to be 3 volumes at first. Echo 2 and Echo 3 were supposed to be the same book, and then as I was writing Echo 2, I was like, oh shit, there's all this material keeps coming, and so that's a classic example for me of how I was like, I had an idea of what it was going to happen, and I still stuck to it, but it kind of being able to manage the disorder that came from my writing made it a richer and fuller more full manuscript, I guess. So
that's amazing. Yeah, and it's like not judging what's coming out, right? Because I'm sure there were times where you're like, what the fuck am I writing? Like, why is it going this way? Like, I'm trying to get to
yeah,
because I know like, where the fuck is this going?
Yeah. Well, the judging comes in my editing process. So for Echo 4, I cut out 67% of the material. I did 23 drafts.
Holy crap.
Yeah. It went from 300, I think 35,000 to 135,000 words. So that was the only book I wrote from beginning to end without editing. Because like, usually what I do is I'll write a certain amount of words per day and I'll edit 2 chapters a day. And Echo 4, I was just like, fuck it. I'll just go 3,500 words a day. I just banged it out. And then I was like, and then I went through it 23 times to get it down. So, but that's where all the judging comes in.
That's insane. 3,500 words a day for, what'd you do it like a month, 2 months? How long did it take you?
To draft it took 7 months, and then to edit it took a year.
Jeez. So how many freaking words was this book?
Well, in the beginning it was 335,000 and then some change.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like 3 books.
Yeah. I wanted to see what it was like, because I wanted to see what it was like just to do it from beginning to end, straight through, no editing. But I realized, like, not only did it take longer, but when you edit along the way, it clarifies your ideas to yourself. To me, well, this is just me, and so it allows you to come up with more potential stuff. on the fly. So that you get a firmer foundation of your story in your mind, for me anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I was just pointing to is like if you just kind of ride with the flow constantly, like with the book I'm working on now, like I noticed it started getting off track because I was completely going free flow on it. I had the idea, like I had the climax and like what I wanted the character to learn and all this kind of stuff, but I was just going free flow and it started bending way too far left.
Okay.
And I got like 5,000 words past the climax and I was like, this is not where I want the story to go. This is not what the story is supposed to be about. This is not the theme I was going for. But that took me like 2 weeks after I wrote that. I was like 62,000 words in, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to get rid of all this crap.
Check.
Because it's like if you lose the theme, you're like, hold on, this isn't what I'm writing the book about.
Right.
It's just nonsense at that point.
It's a little, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's my view on it. Like I've read, obviously you've read a lot. I've read a lot of fiction, and it seems like with books, there's a little more leeway for that. Like I call it the if it's cool enough, then you can just stick it in there and get away with it. But you got to be a good judge. Like Stephen King's great at that shit. Like he'll put in stuff, and you'll be like, well, this has nothing to do with the story, but it's all right. It's good.
It's at least interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you before I forget. Do you edit along the way, or do you just go straight through and then?
So the first two was just straight through.
Okay.
The first 2 books. So with me too, man. Like this has been a complete change of course in my life for me in the past 8 months. I wrote my first 2 books in 3 months, published them both.
Damn.
Straight out, like I was writing like a freaking maniac, like full on beard, hair was everywhere.
You're killing it, man.
Like I just was like I was so focused and zoned. Like I was having all these ideas pouring out of me after 32 years of oppressing the creative side of me.
Right.
And so I wrote those 2 books, and I had other people read and edit, and they were like, it's good, but it needs a lot of editing. And it was like something that I went and I got Grammarly. I didn't know anything about community and like having editors or beta readers or any of this shit. I was just like, I just wrote a book.
Right. Yeah.
Super excited. And I put them out there. And I mean, I think they still need some work. They're good stories in my opinion, but I think they still need some work. But on this one, yeah, I'm like editing every chapter. I'll write 2,000 to 3,000 words a day, and then edit at the end of the day.
Shit, you're doing a lot more than me.
I'm telling you, like I was doing that. Now I'm doing these interviews every day and like this podcast and YouTube every day, and it's like that has slowed to an absolute trickle to where I'm barely able to get a blog post written.
Yeah. It's but damn, like what'd you say? 3 books in 2 months?
Yeah.
Damn, that's impressive, man. That's crazy.
It was pure insanity, is what it was. Like I told you, I'm an addict, so my addict brain is like, so it gets so obsessed about an idea that I like.
That's actually something I meant to ask you about. I forgot to, but I've heard like a lot of addicts, they don't. You can't really change the fact that you're addicted to something. You got to start channeling it into these healthy avenues. Is that true for you?
Yeah. There's a point to that too, because I realize I have to have balance in everything I do, because I get obsessed about work too. Like I've been obsessed about getting these videos, like editing. Like I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to Photoshop. Like I'm having to learn all this stuff on the fly. I've spent like 15 hours a day the past couple weeks editing videos, like creating Photoshop graphics,
right.
Like setting up interviews. I set up 45 interviews in 2 days. Like just like literally out of like,
nice.
I know people don't do this crap, right? But it's like in my head, I'm like, I have to do all of it right now, get as much done as humanly possible. And then, but that's the thing, I have to find balance. Like I had to find balance in working out. I had to find balance in relationships. I have to find, it's a daily battle for me to find balance in every single day, because I can lose my mind, man, really quickly and be off course. That's why it's like they talk about it being a day at a time program, because it honestly is like a minute at a time sometimes for me, just to make sure that I'm not so far out of whack,
right,
that I go to using a drug or a drink.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, I've been around addicts before, not like drug, or I probably have been. Well, I know this guy who's addicted to video games, and
Yeah.
at first I thought, probably like everybody who hears that, they're going to think it's funny. That's what I thought at first. He stayed over for a little bit, and I was like, damn, dude, did you just play 30 hours of video games without sleeping? And I was like, kind of laughing, but then it quickly becomes not funny. It's like,
right.
You can't do this, you can't do that. Basically, it's like you're shut out of society,
Yeah.
And then consequently, you probably need to have some kind of access to society to find fulfillment and meaning. And so I'm like, man, my heart just went out to him. I was just like, fuck, I just got to find a way to help this. It's part of my motivation and I'm pretty sure it's part of your motivation too. Is like, be successful. And then what's the next hill to climb? Well, help other people be successful.
Yeah.
The whole
go
ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's the reason I'm doing any of this, man, is because like my whole reason for starting the interviews was because I wanted to help other people. Like I was thinking, I had been so in myself, like I got to get my book sold, I got to sell my book, I got to promote it, I got to do all this stuff for myself to be successful. And the working in a program, it's a program of helping others, giving from a full cup and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, how can I be of service to the community? And being on Twitter and the writing community, I thought, how can I help these people promote their books? Because as an indie author, you know how difficult it is to promote. I mean, or not how difficult, but like it's an uphill battle. Like there's so many books out there. There's so many traditionally published authors who are getting all the money and publicity.
Right.
It's like, okay, how can I be of service to these people and help their work be seen in any way possible? And this idea came to me. Well, I believe that everybody has this inner story, this story that's encoded in our DNA that's like a bestseller, right? And as long if only we had a platform to tell it on, people will get to know us a little bit better, then they would be more interested in reading what we have to write.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought, why don't I just interview these people? Now I had never done video interviews. I've never interviewed before. I've never done YouTube before or any of this kind of stuff, podcast or anything. And I was just like, I just went with the inspiration. Like it was something to tell me, just put it out there. And within that day, like that's what I'm telling you, like 3 days, I scheduled 40 plus interviews.
That's fucking awesome, man. Yeah.
Holy shit, how am I going to do this?
No.
And so I put up the very first interview was a Skype call with my girlfriend, and it was called Bathroom Interviews because I made her go in the bathroom because we were sitting in my room.
Right.
There was the echo from the phones. I was like, get in the bathroom so I can, and I posted it and people loved it. And
that's awesome, man.
And it's like just going through this inspiration of being of service to other people.
Yeah, yeah.
We, as human beings, we're all going through shit, man. Life is tough for everybody.
Life sucks.
It's like, it does suck sometimes, right? But it's like charting these courses, figuring out how to live life better. I think sharing and inspiring and motivating other people to realize that you can have a better life by working on yourself, by continuing to move forward and not just giving up and saying, well, this is the shit life for me. I might as well turn to a drug or a drink or just end it all or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I talked about this morning, but there's so much more to life than that misery, that state of misery. And I want people to be able to see that. And I hope that I'm able to, get that message across and my platform will raise, hopefully. That's why I'm doing it.
No, that's beautiful, man. Like, afterwards, email me and let me know like how I can, how I can help. Like if you want me to put something on my blog or whatever, like add you to the other authors or whatever. But yeah, that's awesome. But I wanted to ask you, like, so I had that same problem at first where it was just like going back a few minutes where, I'm in class or whatever the fuck, and I'm just like, I got these ideas, I gotta write them all down in my notes, and then I go home and it's like I'm losing sleep. I still got to work out this, that, and the other. And I can get into what I did, but what did you do to kind of manage that a bit?
I meditate, man. So my idea is, or my principle is, I have a billion thoughts. I'm over exaggerating. I've got like 6 thoughts that constantly run through my head and attack my brain on a daily basis. But coming to peace with these thoughts that are constantly running through my mind, it's like if I can come to peace with it, if I have like an inspirational idea, something that really hits me, and if I can sit for 20 minutes and just not do anything, not react to it, and it's still there, well, then it's worthwhile for me. So like meditation has been something that it's moved me to a new space in my life that I never thought possible. Um, it doesn't just work with the inspirational thoughts, but it works with the thoughts that are like, I hate myself, I hate life, I hate this person for doing this to me, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
If I can sit still and focus on breathing and not move or react to it viscerally, or in any manner, then it'll usually pass. Like it's either gone, or if it sticks with me, then I need to take some form of action. And that's kind of the rule I play by.
Okay.
With my ideas, and I meditate every morning.
For how long?
Because 20 minutes at least every morning.
Yeah, that'll do it. I was part of a meditation cult for a while. They charged me like $200 because I was in the military. They charged like other people like fucking $500, $1,500 a month. But yeah, I wasn't spending money on cars or clothes, so I was like, fuck it. You know, these people say that I'm gonna have like that they tap the chakras and whatever. It was I'm not really I was just kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt for a while, and but the point is I still meditate. I don't use their technique, and I feel like this will parallel what you said, but I kind of I only do it for 10 minutes a day usually. But what I do is I just kind of settle into the realization. It's like, man, I don't really matter that much, you know, and not to say that I should kill myself, but it's just like, dude, I'm just look at the facts where it's like, I'm stuck on this tiny little mud ball and spinning through fucking infinity. You know, it's like this stuff that I'm stressing over. It's the only practical thing is just to kind of dial it back a bit and just fucking enjoy what's in front of me. You know, I none of this really matters. That I'm gone soon. You know, in the eye of the universe, it's like I'm less than an eye blink. And I use that it's very easy to start going nihilistic with that and be like, oh, why should I do anything? It's like, but I kind of direct it more towards like, well, I don't really matter. So I'm going to take a deep look at what seems to fulfill people over the long term, which is all that classic stuff they put in the Bible and the Torah, all the Buddhism, all the old core stuff. You know, that seems to work over time. I'm gonna kind of like try to reinterpret that for my own life, and then live that way, because that seems to be how it's most fulfilling. And then that, I don't think all that through the meditation. I'm just like, man, I don't really matter. None of this really matters. Just take a step back and enjoy what's in front of you. That's basically what my meditation consists of. Well,
that's perfect too, because it's like I think some of the biggest issues we have as a species is an idea of humility.
Right.
Like, so many people are afraid to do anything because they're so afraid they're going to fail in front of the eyes of the world. And it's like a terrifying fact. I remember it was something that for me, I used to have panic attacks and anxiety because I was so terrified that if I did something wrong in front of people, they would see me for the imperfect person that I was.
Yeah, yeah.
So that meditation of, I don't really matter. It's not like oh, well, life sucks, I shouldn't do anything. It's like, oh, well, I'm allowed to fail. I should try everything, because who gives a shit, right? Like, I want to experience this life in this form, in this physical body. I want to experience it, and I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of it.
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
Like, what does it matter if I get up in front of people and look like an idiot?
Right, exactly. I mean,
earlier, it was I've always been afraid to get up in front of talk.
Yeah.
In front of people and talk, until I saw Donald Trump and I realized I could become president.
You and me both, man. And then, like, probably a bunch of preschoolers down the street, but
that's right.
As they are now. Yeah. Yeah. To your point, it's like, there's this crazy artist I like listening to, and he went off the rails I've held a gun to my head on a loaded gun to my head on multiple occasions. And it wasn't like, it wasn't anything super dramatic. It was just more along the lines of like some personal failures. And I was just tired. I was just like, fuck, what's the point of the rest of this? But I'm going to tie it to this other guy who he's pretty famous. His name's David Cho. And he was pretty debaucherous for a while. He made hundreds of millions of bucks or whatever. Anyways, like, his fans would call in and they'd mail him, or they'd contact him. They ask him like, hey, should I kill myself? I'm feeling kind of down. And this might be a controversial answer, but I think he nailed it kind of on the head. And before you judge, let me explain the full thing. He said, yeah, absolutely kill yourself, if that's the right choice. But before you do that, kill every part of you that's holding you back before you do that. Go If you wanted to write a book, go do that. You know, if you wanted to go skydive, do that. You know, if you wanted to if you want to go help, you know, kids in some third world country, go do that. Go do everything. You know, go do everything you're holding back on, and then make your decision. And I'm just like,
yes,
yeah, because I mean, honestly, if you do that, you'll probably find meaning in your life, and you won't want to kill yourself. But yeah, like if you exhaust like if you kill every part of you that's holding you back from what you want to do first, you can then make an informed decision. But until you do that, until you go for it and just apply yourself, you know, and grind. If nothing really matters, if you're truly at that point, then fuck it. Do everything you want to do in the first place. You know, everything you dreamed about doing. You know, that can be taken easily in the wrong direction. But
that's so true, man. Like I totally agree with you and what you're saying, and because it is, I feel like the path to an incredible life is lined with fear. It's like and I know, I think Will Smith said it in one of his videos, is like, the best parts of life are on the other side of fear.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If we can just move through that. And I think humility, and people get it wrong. I feel like a lot of times where they think like being humble is being humiliated. It's not. It's like humility is where the idea of yourself and the reality of yourself line up.
Right.
You know, so it's so far off base that you think you're this amazing person. In reality, you're just this low level human being. It's like when they line up, you can walk into a room of anybody and light that shit on fire because you're just you.
Yeah.
And you realize that you don't have to be perfect. You're allowed to make mistakes, and life turns on at that point. And that's something I've realized through writing, through doing the YouTube thing. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna sound like an idiot sometimes, and I'm gonna make some really stupid jokes, and people are gonna look at me funny. But this shit is lighting me up. Like I'm on fire for it. And if I'm on fire for it, then maybe somebody else it might turn somebody else's fire on, and that's what it's about.
No, I mean, I know we're just sucking each other's dicks here at this point, but to your point, it's like once again to your point, where it's like you're going out there, you're doing, and if you're, and I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure you're doing this from what I'm hearing from you, is like if you're making mistakes and you're looking at them and you're like, how do I improve next time? You know, not killing yourself, but you just constantly do that. Then those mistakes were worth something, you know? And if you go back and listen to Joe Rogan, #1, it's just him and his idiot buddy on a shitty sound system getting stoned, saying stupid shit. And now he's like, if you want, he's like a force to be reckoned with. You know, anybody who wants to be heard to the nation, you know, that's like a serious consideration. Maybe I should go on the Joe Rogan Experience. You know, so that's how far just
when he was on Talk Radio. Do you remember him on Talk Radio? Joe Rogan on the show Talk Radio?
I don't.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, like see his progression.
Yeah,
it's insane. He actually looks like he's gotten younger.
Yeah, he's on the.
That was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, he's on the TRT. He's on the juice, man. Yeah, but yeah, no. Well, it's actually what you're referencing is actually it's actually been talked about in it was a myth of King Arthur, I believe. It's when the knights go looking for the Holy Grail, his round table, or I think there's 7 of them or whatever. I'm going to butcher this quote, but they go into the forest where the shadows are darkest and where there is no path. So the significance behind that is that they didn't just go on this like obvious. They basically went into the parts they didn't want to go into first, like the parts they attacked their fears. You know, instead of acting like prey and retracting from the problem, they're like, "There's a problem here. I'm gonna fucking solve it." You know, and to me, that's how to break life down into manageable parts. It's like, what's the problem? You know, because if you start like, this is just my opinion, but when people start like putting like all these ideals and quests on shit, they start getting their self-worth tied up. Oh, I screwed up. I'm an idiot. You know, I'm not worth anything. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's like to me, it's just a lot more productive to be like, I didn't solve the problem. Why? How am I going to solve it on my next attempt? You know? So to me, that takes like it's what you're saying. It's like, you can go in there and light that shit on fire and you won't even care about how great other people perceive you as. You'll just be like, hey, I was just fucking doing my job. I just solved the problem for you guys. That's it. You guys are solving other problems that I can't do, you know? And to me, that's like the essence of humility. It's like, what's the problem? How do I solve it? And then next, you know?
Right. Yeah, do what's necessary.
Right, exactly. But
yeah, I think it's a nice level of consciousness for sure. Like being aware of where you can get better.
Right.
And not holding on to the feelings of misery and sadness. And like, I feel I'm a piece of shit. Like you're talking about.
Right.
It's it's nice to talk about, and it's only done through practice, like practical application. It's honest to God, like doing the thing every day and breaking it down to like, okay, I can't do 100 push-ups, but let me do 1 push-up today. And because at first, like I wasn't able to get on in front of a camera or do any of this shit. Like I wasn't even able to get out of bed. Like I laid in a bed for like 3 months,
Damn.
terrified to out the door, just drinking half a gallon of vodka.
Holy shit.
Because of depression, man. Like you talk about holding a gun to your head. Like I was constantly thinking about it, wanting to die every day.
Right.
But it was only by like small manageable steps every day. And then like those things that you're willing to do each day will start to increase until you're like, okay, I can take a bigger leap of faith today, a bigger leap of faith. And then it's just kind of like it becomes habit for you.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it's in the gym. Writing when you don't feel like writing, having time set for yourself, just doing the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Regardless of feeling.
Yeah, and it's like, do it. If you don't feel like doing it, do it anyways. And then the next day decide, because it might have just been a passing thing or, especially with working out, it might be like, shit, I do need to rest, but just do it and then decide the next day. That's how I see it. But, yeah, man, I had some other shit I was going to ask. I'm losing the thread of conversation.
Thank you guys so much for watching part 1 of my interview with Kent Wayne, author of Echo 1 through 4. Please stick around. I'm going to upload part 2 shortly. Make sure to check it out. It picks up right where we left off. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you would, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification for the bell. Universe, we love you. Love you. Universe.